Daniel. Greeting everyone. Welcome to the webinar. So today we'll discuss the VOMX ability to link with DX and to exchange data with it. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to turn off my camera just to save bandwidth. Okay, there we go. All right, I'm going to switch over here. Okay, so the goal of today is to, in a demo style, to build an actual iPhone native application that can fetch and display images and collections from HCL DX, right? Particularly the digital asset manager. That's what we're going to focus on. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is I'm going to mention some of the API available from DX, in particular this one, the digital asset manager. Then we're going to build Foundry middleware services, an integration service that exchange data with the DAM, right? And so that you can display on fetch the collection and the images. And then finally, we're going to use VOMX Iris IDE no-code capability and create an actual app. All right. Now let me get out of this. All right, when you install a DX service, there will be a site that you can explore all the REST APIs that's available from DX. And so what I see here in my DX server that I'm using is called robcf228, okay? And you can see all the REST APIs, right? The coin ring, the DAM, which is this one that we're going to focus in on. Image processor, access control, user group, search, etc. There are many APIs, okay? And so this one that we are focusing on is called Digital Asset Management API. And you can see the particular path of the server toward that endpoint, okay? And then there are a number of operations here that's allow you to exchange data with the collection control. But particularly for our application, the low-code app that we're going to build, we're going to focus on get collections and get a particular sub-collection. So these two operations, okay? And what does that mean in terms of the actual DX DAM? So here, I'm in that same DX server. And you see from the root folder of the digital assets, a number of main collection, right? ADA and safety images, NAA BMS, AI images, among other. And you probably, are familiar with Woodburn Island and Woodburn Bank, some of the demo assets in DX, okay? Now, if we drill down onto this one particular collection, you see there are 4 sub-collections, outdoor, stairs, entrance, and kitchen. And if you look at kitchen, there are 4 image or 4 digital assets. There could be image, it could be video, it could be files, other type of assets here, okay? And so that is the layout of this particular DX DAM, okay? And so we're going to use these 2 operations in our Vault Foundry. Now, I'm in the Vault Foundry now, okay? And when I'm in apps, a particularly Foundry app like these that exist here, they are a collection of API. So if I focus on this one called FADX Live 228, I drill into it, you will see that Foundry support many different APIs and services. Identity is one, integration, REST and SOAP and databases integration, the ability to combine them into one call, right? So multiple integration can be combined into one call, making your application access to backend services much more efficient, okay? There's objects, the ability to talk to a database, and also to make sure that your app can go offline. So if you have a field service worker that's out in the woods and there's no connectivity, your app will still work. Purpose of object services. And then there's workflow that you can combine many of these integration API services into a visual workflow that can drive a result that you need. Okay. Now let's look at. I'm just going to look at these two fairly quickly. So if you hit configure new under identity, you will see the identity service that we support out of the box. All right. OAuth 2, Okta, Active Directory, for example, right? And then the other social sign-on. And don't forget, in our marketplace, there are over 300 other adapters that you can readily download, import, and use within the Foundry middleware. Okay. Now, under integration of this particular Foundry app or collection of APIs, we have, or I built two integration endpoints. The first one is it talks to the API that you saw here and here, right? It's talked to that same DX server, Rob CF228, okay? And there are operation. For example, like this one, get collection. Look at the signature, okay? It's DX API then v1 collection, which is, okay? That's the path. And that's the operation, get collection. That's what that does, okay? So when you call on this operation, it should get the collection from the DX server. And actually, we can test from here. If I click on save and fetch, I should get data from my DX server. Okay, here's the output. And if you look at the output, in the content, the one on the first thing is the images for ADA. The name is ADA and safety images, which is this one, right? And so the next one that you expect to see in that JSON set is NAABMS, right? So let's look down further down, okay? NAABMS right there, okay? So this proves that your middleware can fetch data from DX or the DAM API, okay? And then I also have another operation called get collection from collection. And look at the signature of the service call, okay? DX API DAM v1, collection keyword, collection ID, and items, okay? This is this one. So this one gives me the ability to get the content of a sub-collection, right? So collection, collection ID, and item. So it means that when I focus on this particular main collection, these are the sub-collection I should see. And if I go further, like kitchen, you should see these images, okay? And so that's the purpose of the different operations I have here. So this one will give me the sub-collection, and this one will give me the actual digital asset within that sub-collection. And then, you can test just like you did before. You can test directly from here. You can see the result coming back from DX, okay? Now, once this is built and you are satisfied with the operation, you can publish the app. So that make the Foundry app or the collection of APIs available for external call. It could be, you could build from for different technology stack, but if we're going to use Volt Iris to build the application, okay? Now, I do want to mention that in this integration service, I also have a service to ChatGPT, OpenAI. That's the endpoint, okay? And I have the ability to analyze image or to take advantage of the AI service available from ChatGPT, okay? And then, when you are, no, I don't want to say. When you are further satisfied, you can publish a service and it's a single click publish. And you can see here under the app status that it has been published, okay? So that means this is now available for external use, okay? All right, so that's this part and that part. Now, what I do want to go into the Iris IDE and show you how we build the native application using no code, okay? So here is my Iris IDE, okay? And then, I already created a blank project, but you can create a new one. Just go into project, new project, okay? So here, under a blank project, under the native mobile form factor, I have just a blank screen. And then you see all the widgets that's available from here, okay, from the bottom side. And notice Volt IQ, the AI assistant, is always available for you. Right? If you need answers to questions, you need to translate this app to different languages, Volt IQ can do that for you. And it can also suggest design, okay? Now, notice on the far right-hand side, under Volt Foundry backend, we don't have anything attached, okay? So Volt Iris IDE has a very tight integration with Foundry application. So notice the application that we built under Foundry right here, right? FADX Live 228. I'm going to link to it right now into my project. So I'm going to go here, link to existing app, and it should show me all the Foundry application that's available. And I'm going to search for mine called FADX. And here it is, FADX Live 228. Okay, associate. And just to make sure that I see the service that has been published, remember, here's ChatGPT, here's my API service to RobCF228, okay? And those operations that is available. And if in case, we're just gonna go back here and to remind ourselves, okay? Those are the same operation, okay? So now it is available here, okay? So our goal is not to build an iPhone application, native application using no code, okay? So I have a blank form and you can see right now I'm just focusing on iOS native and there's many different phone types that you can model, but I choose this one just because it's small and you can see the entire screen here. But of course, you can change, to like for example, an iPhone 14. But then it's too big to show here in the IDE. So I'm just going to pick this small form factor, okay? And what we're going to do in the first screen of the application is that we're going to fetch the main collection from within root, okay? So that's the purpose of this form, or in Iris IDE, a form is a UI screen, okay? So we're going to rename this into FRM list root collections, okay? And it is the level 1, so I'm going to put a 1 to it, right? Now, you could, go here and drag and drop all these UI, but we're going to focus on no code. So the first thing I want to do is I want to get the collection from DX. I'm going to drag the operation over. And it's going to ask me, do I want a detailed response or I want a list? I want a list, right? Because there can be more than one main collection, right? So I want a list. Let's hit OK here. Okay, it's going to generate for me a UI with all the properties that's available from the operation. So you can compare by expanding underneath the actual operation itself. And you can see here are all the different properties, and they are also here, okay? Now, notice there are many properties here that I don't need. because this is going to give me a list of that, right, of the main collection. So I'm going to customize this by going to properties, okay, and hitting C for customization. Okay, I'm going to customize the dynamic form. And I don't need many of these properties, only a few. So I'm just gonna turn off accessible, created, editable, deletable. I do want the description, so I'm gonna leave it there. I don't care about the root parent ID, but I do need the user ID. Okay, so user ID indicate that this collection, who actually creates the collection. Okay, so get rid of parent ID. I don't need that. I don't need that. I do want the collection count. This tells me how many sub collection are within that main collection. Okay, and I'm not going to use a unique name. I'm going to use a name. Not going to use the self or the location. I do want the ID, and I don't care about updates, so I'm going to turn that off. And now I'm going to get Iris to regenerate this UI for me. Okay. So what you see here is a list of main collection, right? And let's see, let's rearrange some of this fields. So I want the names to go first, okay? Next is the description, and okay, who owns this collection, and then the number of collection, and then the ID. This is the DX ID, but notice it's just a long, boring string, right? No actual use to the user. So I'm just going to make it invisible and turn it off here, okay? All right, so in this first screen, we're going to get for each one of the main collection, we get the name, the description, who owns it, and the number of sub-collection within it, okay? All right, so that's the first screen. Now, we need a second screen because what happened if we drill down into one of the main collection? You can see there are 4 sub-collections. So we need a second screen to display that. So I'm going to go back to my mobile project. I'm going to go new form here. Okay. So renaming the form. This will be form list sub-collections 2. It is level 2. Okay. And notice it's kind of large, so I'm going to make this a little smaller by picking iPhone SE again. All right. And we're going to go to data services and take advantage of the second operation that we have here from Foundry. Okay. Actually, I'm going to use this one. Get small collection from collection. Drag it over. It's going to build for me the UIs of my choice. I want to see a list, right? Because there could be more than one sub collection within the main collection. Okay. Then once again, you see all the different properties that I don't need. I'm going to customize it like before. Okay. Get rid of things that I don't want. Create, editable, deletable. I do want a description. I don't need the parent ID. I don't need the user ID because I know I have it here already in the first screen. Okay, so remove that, that. I do want the name. I don't care about the self. Location. I do need the ID. Don't care about the edit property. And I do want the collection image. Get rid of that and regenerate. Okay, now we create 2 screens here with basically with no code. But then you ask yourself, well, how did this thing exchange data with DX? Okay, so if you go into the main form or the main form, and you look under action, the on mapping event is the main event that exchange data. Okay, logic has already been built for you. Okay, just by dragging and dropping from the Foundry App Services panel. Remember that we drag and drop, it creates your UI, but it also creates this logic. And then let's examine what this logic does. Okay, here it's going to show a busy indicator. I'm busy. Exchanging data with the Foundry and then again with DX, right? If you look at it, that's the name of the Foundry integration service, and that is the operation that's being called, okay? It's coming back. When the service call comes back, it's going to dismiss. It's going to check to see if the operation is good, right? By checking the op status equal to 0. And if it's good, what do we have here? It's taking everything from the service that's being returned, and it's going to map to widget on the screen, okay? So that is how this thing will have data immediately, okay? Now, what we want to do is we need the ability to link. Let's say a user click on one of the main collection, okay? So from home, he click on ADA and save the images, okay? So when he clicks on one of these main collection, I want to save the ID and to pass this ID to the second screen that display the sub collection, okay? So what we're going to do is we're going to go to here and add a global variable that will hold that ID. Okay, so I'm going to name it TV. TV for global variables. Okay, selected root collection ID. Okay, going to create that. And then here, under the segment, a segment is a list. Okay, under the on row click, I'm going to add a mapping. So what I'm going to do is when the user select one of those rows, I'm going to see here under the selected row item, there's an ID. That's the DX ID. I want that ID to be safe. So it's a matter of clicking here and there, relating those two, okay? So remember, the user click on a main collection count, I save the ID, and then next thing I do, so I'll navigate from the first screen to the second screen. Okay, that's it. Now in the second screen, oh, I made a operate on the wrong one. So let's try that again. Segment on row click, mapping from a user click on a main collection. I want to take that ID, save to the variable, and then navigate to the second screen. Okay. All right, so that takes care of this one. So in this one, now there's an on mapping event, okay? And if we look at the actual service call, this is showing a sub-collection. So it requires a DX asset ID. And we have that here. Okay, so we're just going to make that call. Okay. So now we have two screens, okay, right? The first screen will give you the sub-collection. The second screen will give you, actually the first screen will give you the main collection, and the second screen will give you the sub-collection. Now I forgot to rearrange this, so let's rearrange this. Okay, there's a name, the description, the ID go at the bottom, okay? And then while like before, ID is no good to the user, I'm just gonna make it invisible. Now, this image is valuable, but right now it's just a label. So if you show it to the user, it's just a long string of data. It's meaningless, right? So I'm going to make that invisible too. But I do want to show that image here in this row, right? So when you see the collection, you should see the image. But before we can do that, we need to make some adjustment to this list. And by default, it has a flow vertical layout. So right now, if I drag an image widget, it's going to go right to the bottom. I don't want that. I want it to exist here. Okay. So I need to change this flow vertical to freeform. And then make some adjustment here very quickly. Okay. Now I'll be able to add an image so I can show the image coming back from the back end. Okay. And the first thing I'm going to do is going to make the image name meaningful. Maybe just V for now. And let's just make it 60 by 60 dp. The top is 2. And I'm going to make it flush right. So it's going to be flush right at 2, turning off the left adjustment. Okay. And that's what you have there. All right. Now, one more thing we have to do is that when we are displaying data or fetching data, we need to make sure that that image has the actual source. So once again, we look at our mapping here, and you see right now the collection image is only going to a label, and that label has been turned off, right? Make it invisible. So I need that image to be the source of that new image which is created. Okay, so it's a matter of clicking one and the other and relating those two. All right, and right now we have one screen. This is the main collection. When the user click on one, it's going to show the sub collection. Let's test it immediately. Okay, I'm going to build an actual just an adaptive web. Hopefully, our build will not fail. Everything will be okay. Then we will be able to test these two screens by actually seeing data from DX. Okay. A little bigger. Okay. And you can see here, using our no code drag and drop capability, we have a list of the main collection. And you expect that to match this, right? So let's go back to main. Okay, we have ADA and safety images, NAA BMS, AI images, ETA BMS, selective insurance, Woodburn Island, Woodburn Bank, okay? And they're here, okay? Now what happened if we drill down, okay? Same thing here. If we drill down on ADA, we have 4 sub-collections: outdoor, stairs, entrance, kitchen. Now, we don't yet have a screen that can support the third clicks, right? The drill down of one of these sub-collections. So let's go back into our Iris IDE and build that. And again, it's very repetitive, similar to the previous forms. We're going to create a new form. Okay. And I'm going to rename this form. FRM list items from collection, and it is a 3rd level, so I'm going to give it 3. All right, and just to make the entire screen visible, I'm going to use a small form factor. Going back to our data services, this operation from Foundry, okay, will give you all the digital assets from within a collection. So I'm going to drag this over just like before. Okay, again, it has your choice whether you want a detail, you want the entry for a request, or you want a list. I just want the list. Okay. Once again, we have many things that we don't need. I'm going to customize it. Don't need created, unique, user ID. I don't need the, actually, I don't need the URL, but I do want the size of the actual digital assets. The name, don't care about that. I do need the ID. And it's good to have a thumbnail, right? So I'm going to leave that there. Removing is favorite. I'm going to keep the media type. So it tells me whether this is a PNG or an MP4 video, a JPEG, or PDF, etc. Right? So I'm going to keep that and regenerate the UI. Okay, and notice once again, for this new form, if you look at the on-mapping event, logic has already been created to fetch data from the backend. Okay. All right, so now let's do some rearrangement here. So for the digital asset, I want the name first. Okay. And I want the media type. So I know immediately the media type. And then I want to see the size. ID always go on the bottom for me. And then once again, user don't care about the ID. I'm going to make that invisible. And then this thumbnail URL, it's just a URL, no good to us. So I'm also going to make that invisible. All right. And then I do want that thumbnail to show up here, just like you see in the main collection. When you click on a sub collection, I want to see the digital assets. Okay. So I'm going to add an image here. But before I can do that, I need, again, to change from flow vertical layout to freeform. Okay. And I need to do some adjustment just because of that. I need to make this top 60 so it doesn't override the one above it. Okay. So now we can actually drag in an image widget about right there. Okay. And then I'm going to give it a good name, something that I can identify. Okay. Image V. How about making this a little bit bigger, at 70? Be a little easier to see. And I want it to be near the top, and I also want it to flush right. Okay. There. All right. So now with this image, we actually need to make sure it has data. So let's go back to our on mapping event again. Okay. So here's a thumbnail. Okay. Right now, thumbnail, we're just saving to a label. Didn't mean to do that. Come on. Come on. Okay. Thumbnail right now, it just going to a label, but we want it to go to this actual image as a source of the image. So here, click in there again, okay? And notice that this sub-collection requires an ID. So for example, if you are under data and images, you have to pick on one of these, right? So you can pick on kitchen to see the actual image. So likewise, when the user click on a main collection, I need to save the subfolder DXID and then pass it to the third screen. Okay? Here, on the row click. Oh, before I do this, I actually need a variable to hold it. So let's go out to our global variables. I'm going to create a second variable, GV for global, select it, sub collection ID, and it is level 2. So I'm going to put a 2 next to it. All right. So on row click, I need, actually, I want to make sure I'm on the right screen here. Okay. add mapping. So when user click on a main collection from the DX root, here's the DX ID. I want to save that DX ID, okay? And then after saving, I want to navigate. So I'm going to drag the navigate to here, and I'm going to go to the third screen, okay? And then likewise, in the third screen, when it's getting data, particularly here, you can see the actual Foundry service need a collection ID. And then we just have that in the second global variable right here. So I'm going to click on that just to make sure those two are safe. And then immediately we can build and test. Okay. Okay, so now I should have three screens. First one shows the main collection from root. When the user click on one, it's going to show the sub collection like kitchen under ADA images. And then when you click on kitchen, it should show the images within kitchen. Okay, so here's our test. It's actually fetching data. Okay, under ADA and safety images, it should now show the four. Outdoors, stairs, entrance, and kitchen. If I click on kitchen now, okay, it show me the four kitchen images that I have from the X. They're right here. Okay, so that is how quickly you can build an application from Iris IDE using no code, right? And it actually talked to our DX backend and be able to provide you the collection and images immediately. Okay. And so
Dai,
yes.
Dai, we have a question in the chat. How to create a tree control for menuing, displaying data in a calendar grid?
Ah, good
I
question.
don't know if that's easy to answer at this point, but you know.
No, it's very easy. Take advantage of VoIQ. You can tell it to help you with that design, or you can also go to the marketplace. There are many components that's already out there. So it's the ability to go there, take a look, pull it down, import it into your Iris project, and of course, you need to rebrand, change the color, change the font, make it your own, right? And so that's all out there. You don't need to create that from scratch. Okay, so remember marketplace and remember VoIQ. That's a very good question. All right, so when you are satisfied with this application and you actually want to build a native application, look here. Okay, under build native local, there are also support for cloud build. So under build, there are cloud build, there are also for web type of application. But we're going to do an actual iOS application build. So I'm going to select that, make sure it's a clean build. And under my project settings, under build local, I do need an Apple development team ID. And I have that here. I wanted to generate an IPA. I also need my MacBook password, okay? And then I can build from here. I'm not going to hit build. It's going to take 5 to 7 minutes. When you build, you actually see, okay, I'm going to go ahead and click on build. But you should see Xcode pops up. Xcode is going to launch, and then you should be able to see the IPA that's generated. And then you can also, run your IPA according to your requirement, whether it's an iPhone native application, or it could also run an iPad. He also launched simulator, things like that. Okay, this is going to take a few minutes. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you an application hopefully this application will, an application that I sort of refined from this. So let me launch the screen share component, reflector, okay? And I'm going to go to my iPhone, screen share to this, and hopefully you can see my iPhone, okay? And particularly this application. Sure. So here's the application, okay? Click on NAA, and you can see it's just a more refinement of what you just saw here, right? There's a logo. I add the label that describe these properties, okay? And if I click on ADA and images, you should see, outdoor stairs and building entrance and kitchen. And let's click on kitchen. And then you see there, and I added an additional screen, like if you click on one of these images, okay? And this is the AI analysis of this image, okay? And right now I'm telling it, warn if you see a person, okay? So it's actually going to ChatGPT. Remember that the second integration service that you saw that I mentioned in our Foundry app, okay? So that's what it's doing here, okay? There's an image, okay? And I can also think is warn if the person is in danger, okay? So let's click on that and let's see what ChatGPT say, okay? Doesn't appear to be any danger. The person is just standing in the kitchen posing calmly. All right, makes sense to me, okay? But let me start this over. Come on. And I want to show you another use case. So once again, I'm reading from the root collection of DX, okay? Clicking on kitchen. And let's just click on this image, the first image. You can ask it to, see if this kitchen is in compliance with American Disability Act. Or if you can have an application that take an assembly line, and you can see if this assembly point is following OSHA laws and regulation. Okay, so let's just click on this. Let's see if this kitchen is in compliance with ADA, and let's see what it returns. It's taking a long time, but there you go. The AI analysis, right? Something about floor space, something about counter height. It needs to be what? 34-inch maximum, at least 27-inch clearance, right? So all the things that you can apply, or you can ask AI to help you. If this is the use case, making sure that you are in compliance with American Disability Act, or you need to make sure that this application or this particular assembly spot is in compliance with OSHA, right? You can apply the same, okay? But one more thing I want to show you. Let's say go to outdoor, okay? And then you see there are some images here, okay? But I do want to ask AI, let me get rid of this prompt, this AI prompt, say warn if there is a person. Okay, did I spell that right? Yes. I'm gonna check. Yes, there's a person. So you can build a security application immediately off what you just generated in low code. Okay. So there are a number of things that you can do. And finally, our application is already built. And you can see here's the IPA that's generated. If you click on it, it tells you where the file is, right? And Iris, I mean, not Iris, but Xcode is launched. And you can see here, and it is, within that project immediately. And if you want to test, you can test against simulator, you can test against my a physical phone, etc. Right? And you can see here, I can actually click on and launch it. So not going to do that, but that concludes my presentation, right? How to build, let me get that back to my PowerPoint. How to build an iPhone native application. And you can do the same with Android or iPad, right? Any number of factors. So for example, if I go back to build no native local, you can see I can also pick on Android if I want to and build an actual Android app that you can install and deploy to your Android phone, okay? So we took advantage of the API coming from DX. We integrate that as an integration service into Foundry middleware. Then we use Iris no code to generate an actual iPhone application, native application that can be deployed to your phones. Okay. I hope that helps everyone, and it shows you the very powerful link between MX and DX. So that concludes my presentation. Back to you, Daniel. If there are any questions, I'll be perfectly happy to answer.
So we have a couple of questions. One is how to implement authentication timeouts.
That is part of the Foundry identification service, okay? Come on, okay. So under ID, you will see, let's say if you pick OAuth 2, right? So these are all the things that you have to enter for that. And also under advanced, you can also set the timeout, any additional things that you want to check, okay? And then once that's set up, you can also test login. Okay. Now I do want to mention one thing that differentiate Vault Foundry from our competitors. All the services that you create here, whether the identity service, and you can see I have a number of them, whether the integration service, and it's going to take a few seconds to actually display because I have many services that I already done. So all the service will exist here, and then you can always reuse them or reshare them. So for example, here under integration service, you see many different types, okay? They're here. But you can always reuse them and reshare them versus some of our competitors. If you say, I want to clone this to a second front-end application, you have to clone this. And when you clone it, it exists as a second asset within your middleware, and you have to reapply, development process, QA, testing in different environments, etc. But for us, it's all reusable, reshareable. So that's one major advantage for Volmax, particularly Vault Foundry services. Okay, so let's look at one workflow. I didn't get to show an example of a visual workflow, but here's an example. All the workflows are based on what you have done here, whether the integration service, the orchestration, or the objects. All of those can be combined into a visual workflow, right? And be able to leverage them, leverage the workflow based on events, based on something changed in one of the object service, or as an integration being called. Okay, that's an example of workflow. And then there are also rules so that you can generate. These are logical rules that you can set up. It's taking a little while to display. And then I also want to mention there are engagement. So this is the type of notification that you can also add to your application. Okay, engagement is there. So all that's supported. And so the roundabout answer to your identity service is under the advanced setting. you can set the timeout, and you can set timeout to many of these integration endpoints. Okay. Any other questions?
So Venkata adds that in Foundry, we have to set session timeouts in the identity service, and then in Iris app, use the API register for idle timeout. So I guess that's
correct.
a helper for you as well. There was one other question I got on the side, and we didn't talk about Figma. We didn't use Figma in the application. And essentially, I said, we wanted to focus on the no-code build process, and Figma is a great part of the application, but we wanted to focus on how to build the project. But if you want to say anything else about Figma,
Yeah,
Guy.
Figma is, let's see. I don't think I have the right version, but yes, you can import Figma directly within Iris IDE. I'm not seeing here, but you should be able to import Figma, and it actually will generate the equivalent Iris widget that resemble that Figma design. And then you'll be able to go from there, whether you want that UI to talk to different services, to different things, whatever the logic or your requirements may be. Okay. But that is certain one of the major advantage of V10 of Vomax.
Okay, I don't see any other questions. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention, Di? And we can close the call.
No, I just I wanted to show you how quickly you can build an application, that take advantage of all the APIs available from DX. And then you can also, because of Vomax, you can build that as a native application. You can actually build that as a iPad, right, or tablets type of application. You can also build things like responsive web, or actually, let me launch it. You can also build wearable, right? And then other things. For example, actual native application. Let's see if you see that here. I don't have that turned on, so it won't be visible. But then you can build, native application. Click on the wrong one. Sorry. Here, right? Wearables, car app, desktop app, whether it's Mac OS, okay? And on a Windows machine, you should be able to build Windows application, native Windows application. All right, that's conclude my presentation. Hope that helps. Give me feedback. I love to have that.
Very good, thank you. And we'll close the call for today. And in 2 weeks, we have another call on caching. See you later. Bye.
Thank you all. Bye.